Bill Henshaw here again for the Constitutional Crisis channel. This is another in our ongoing series on current events. This one involves the murder of 6-year-old Jeremy Mardis in Louisiana by cops executing a traffic stop. And what I want to ask about this one to date, and this has been over a week now, is Alice Sharpton and Jesse Jackson, where are you on this one? I mean, you tell me, this is a 6-year-old kid that got shot in the back 5 times. And there were 18 shots fired on this traffic stop, which apparently was originated when the cops thought that there was a warrant out for the quote-unquote driver, which turned out not to be true. This raises some serious questions I'm not going to address here, but trust me, the problem they have is that even if the warrant existed and was quote-unquote valid, there's no way the traffic quote-unquote court would have had any jurisdiction here. Absolutely none, and I can prove that. I mean, dead bang, black letter law. What that means, in effect, is these cops are not acting in excess of their authority, which is bad enough. They acted without any authority whatsoever. And when that happens, the Supreme Court of the United States has held that a person has the right, to self-defense and to do whatever it takes necessary to avoid an unlawful arrest. Case on this one is called John Badoff versus United States, 177 U.S. 529. And you read this one, and it wakes you up as to what the situation is. And it's especially important today with my state versus territory here, because none of these territorial officials has any jurisdiction, any authority. And this includes these black robe bastards who think they have judicial immunity while they're sitting there in a legislative tribunal exercising federal regional martial law rule. This is the kind of thing that we have to stop and say, wait a minute, and we don't file civil rights cases either. Forget about that nonsense. You can't do it. If we file in common law, once we get our common law courts back and we hit them with trespass via armis, that's by force of arms, and or assumpsit, which is a case you file when they violated their oath of office, and they do this every day, maybe without knowing it for the most part, but that's not our problem in life. You took the job, you swore the oath, you're supposed to know what you're doing. Simple. So a lot of people in Louisiana are going to be hearing about this, from me about this, up to including the governor. I kind of wish in a way that Jim Garrison was still around. I'd get him involved too, but that's a story for another day. But a 6-year-old kid gets killed here on a traffic stop. And this happens because these cops, think they get away with so much, as you know, in the last year and a half, particularly with the Eric Garners of the world and people like that, and Oscar Grants. They just get away with it with nothing more than a slap on the wrist in most cases. And they think they have absolute, utter power and control over everybody because they're a quote-unquote peace officer when they pull out their guns and do exactly the opposite. This is the kind of stuff that has to stop here, and it will if we take it on our own and get educated in the law and know what to do and get on juries and convict. Because as far as this case is concerned, this is a really odd one for me because I'm going to tell the parish DA down there, if you file charges like you're threatening to do here with second-degree murder, and probably based on a civil quote-unquote right statute, I'm going to come into the case as an intervener and defend these murderers, otherwise known as cops, because your court isn't going to have jurisdiction. What you should be filing here is first-degree murder charges and attempted first-degree, and you could have 2 cases if the father himself dies. And that's the death penalty. And left to my own devices in a state court of common law jurisdiction, these bastards get 20,000 volts with no question about it. And yeah, you can see I'm obviously a believer in the death penalty if we're in the right court and all the constitutional rights have been obeyed. You'd never see that these days. And that's a story for another video too that I'll get you about what goes on with the Supreme Court in the death penalty cases. It's interesting stuff. That said, like I said, they're going to be hearing a lot from me in Louisiana. I'll get back to you if I get any responses from this, and we'll see what happens. And yes, I will actually defend these cops if it comes to that, because for a court to exercise jurisdiction when it doesn't have it, I could put it plain and simply, as the judge said at a much earlier time, that it's better that a murderer should go unwhipped of justice than that a court without jurisdiction should exercise it. In case you can find this in, it's called Tully, T-U-L-L-Y, versus United States, 140 Federal Reporter, 899, I believe it's on page 905. And the judge knew when he did this, the guy was going to walk because the Montana Supreme Court had acquitted him of this murder on the grounds that they didn't have jurisdiction, when in fact they had it, but didn't know. This is right at a time when Montana had just come into the Union, so things maybe weren't as clear as they might have been. And I say that, by the way, with a grain of salt. Montana has never been admitted into this Union, but that's a story that we're going to continue on another day. But he knew this guy was going to walk, because now if he goes back into the state court, guess what? Double jeopardy. So the guy probably committed the murder, but his smart attorney, at the time, and it probably wasn't Johnny Cochran either, but got him off in the state court and the federal court, and that was the end of it. There was nowhere to prosecute him. So this is how important this is, even in this case, and even in the case of Dylan Roof in South Carolina, which you'll hear more about on another video, where I'm doing just the opposite of what I would be doing here, and it seems contradictory, but it isn't, as I will explain to you in that video on Roof. Now, you may have some questions here, and probably should expect to have them, ask me what the hell is going on here, why am I doing this? Well, I'm happy to provide answers. I have documents that you can get, and I can prove everything I'm saying. It's not like I'm making it up, and everybody on the other side knows I'm right. Now, continuing on the subject of Jeremy Mardis, the 6-year-old white kid that was recently murdered in Louisiana by cops, I should have pointed out this was a 6-year-old white kid who did not and does not have any civil rights, quote unquote. All the more reason to wonder where you are. Al Sharpton, Jesse Jackson, Alan Dershowitz, and Gloria Allred. I mean, you don't show up here. It's like white lives don't matter. Now, if you're going to take that position, what you're saying, in effect, is that the lives of all of the descendants of our posterity who ordained and established this nation and republic and the Constitution of the United States don't matter. That's a strikingly odd position for anyone to be taking here, but I would strongly suggest, sir, that's the net effect of what's been accomplished by the enactment of the Civil Rights, quote-unquote, statutes and the 14th and 15th War Amendments. Thank you.